I'd like to answer first yung the goal of the minimum wage is to protect workers. We have been saying that if that's the goal, it's not doing its job, basically. Because one, it lowers the household income. So how is it you can't find a job? How does it achieve that goal? So that's one of our main points. That we are like to say saying that we examine it because data is saying that it's not performing the goal. That's one. I think the other one I'd like to is the compliance. So we know that I know because I look at the data that the most violated labor regulation is the minimum wage. And you can just imagine it has been implemented strictly, right? We would have not 7% unemployment rate, but very much higher than that. So, but it doesn't erase the point. But basically, our regulators is looking the other way because they know that the minimum wage is not implementable. That's the way I look at it. But it doesn't erase the point that that's still illegal not to pay people minimum wage because that's the law. Even if you don't implement it, that's still the law. So that's the point. So we are trying to we are fooling ourselves. We can't implement a law and we maintain it and we don't look for options around it. What we are saying is we are not against the minimum wage. We are actually, we can look at this way from the economics part of those also. But when you pay for something, you pay, like for example, you pay for something, you pay with your own money. You're willing to pay for something because it values you, the value that is equivalent to the value you are parting with, right? For a firm, the value of a worker in his production is what economists call value marginal product. That's an amount that he can afford to pay without losing. Okay, now here comes a socially determined wage, like the minimum wage. What's included there? Included there are our wishes to have our workers to have a decent wage, right? Part of that, most of the time, all of the time, the minimum wage is always higher than what the firm can afford to pay. So we are talking on something that society should be paying. So what we are arguing is that, look, we are asking the firm to pay for something he cannot afford. That's why he's just hiring senior experienced workers and all of that for a job, because he wants to make sure that that money is paying is worth the money. But so we are asking the firm to pay for something that he cannot afford, and we are wishing that the firm, parang pinapabayaran mo sa kapatid mo yung bagay na you can't afford, but you wish that you could have. Something like that. So basically we're saying that, look at that closely. If we are wishing that our workers to have a decent wage, and that's not affordable for the firm then we take it from general taxes. That's how public finance should be paid. You can't ask people in Mindanao to pay for LRT because you don't use the LRT, right? So that's what we are saying, that we look at how we finance these things. We know that we have to have decent wage for our workers, but what we are questioning is the way we finance it. We are asking the firm to pay for all of it when we cannot afford. So basically, I know that the point is how do we extract? That's another. We can have another session for that. But that's the essential idea of what we are trying to propose. That the compliance rate is just a reflection that most of our firms cannot afford, and the labor actually the UL is looking the other way. They could have 5 cases for violations, right? Because that's illegal. I know that's illegal. You can't hire a worker without paying the minimum wage. Because that's the law. So basically, that's my take of and I appreciate I think I'd like to my point. I appreciate the initiative of DOD to have a two-tier wage system, but that has to be studied well, because that's near going towards our proposal. But as I've said, all of this has to be validated by data. We can't be banking on our emotions. Minimum wage is supposed to be doing something, and we said it's not doing something. So if you have other analysis that tells us otherwise, you show it to us. Basically, that's because we have to validate all our what they're doing and whether it's performing the job. Perform. That's what.
There was some interesting questions. That okay. In any case, let me just make it sharper that even though there are enforcement problems, compliance issues, the fact of the matter is, if it is a law, it is illegal. If you don't pay, there is the threat that you will be blackmailed. There is possibility in effect of corruption. So, in effect, it will still cost the firm. Employment will still cost the firm because of the threat. Okay? And in a way, that is embedded as part of the empirical question. You have all these positive impacts, negative impacts, but you have all this uncertainty. At the end of the day, then you ask the question, what does the data tell you? And what we're saying is it has a negative impact by various standards and indicators. On inflation, when you look at our data precisely, when you look at real wages, they have not really been growing compared to Singapore, which does not have minimum wages, Malaysia, which does not have minimum wage, and others. So what this indicates is that when you set up high minimum wages below the productivity, above the productivity level of the workers, what will happen is that market will adjust, and so what we'll have is it goes up and then it will have to go down to adjust to the natural wage rate that is made sustainable by productivity. So in other words, what we're saying is it might increase real wages in the short run, but at the end of the day, it will the whatever positive impact it has, it will dissipate. Okay. Then, okay, the question really about minimum wages and decent wages. I think Dr. Sikat basically started to respond to that issue, and you have to make a distinction. Minimum wages should not be confused with the idea of decent family wages. Okay. Now, from the public finance economics, you know, when there's a public good, and it's a public good that families should receive as a goal, as a desirable goal of society, to receive decent wages for reasons like social cohesion, okay, then that has to be financed not by individual enterprises, not by individual private persons, but that should be financed. The gap between the market generated wages and the family income that we so desired for everybody, that gap has to be financed through general tax revenues. That's the principle. Because if you obligate an individual person or an individual enterprise, they can go bankrupt. You know, it's very inefficient to do that. It's much more efficient, according to public finance principle, that it be financed by general tax revenues. Okay, so let's look at this issue, you know, from an alternative perspective. that is more principle, grounded on solid principle. Then, this thing about is there a conflict between the right to work and the right of unions to impose regulations that prevents people from getting higher-paying jobs? Yes, of course there is. Because as we precisely show empirically, like minimum wages, and I'm sure other regulations, inappropriate regulations, do impact negatively on the opportunities of workers to get better jobs, or to get jobs in the formal sector away from their low-paying informal.
I'd just like to add something on compliance. The Department of Labor, to promote a culture of voluntary compliance from firms, we actually issued the labor law, a department order last year on the labor law compliance system. Under that particular DO, the goal will help firms comply with our labor and social legislations and its regulations, and part of that is compliance with